express our support for this agreement so that we can work with Otay Water District to hopefully get some recycled water over to the cemetery. The agenda covers it, but the grass at the cemetery is getting quite brown to the dismay of many families, and we're really eager to work with Otay and get some recycled water so that we can, irrigate the cemetery and bring some relief to those families. And I also just want to thank the staff at Otay Water District and your general counsel, Jeannie, for working really well with us over these past many months to get to this point. So that's it. That's our public comment. And now, again, I'm happy. I plan on staying on the line, so I'm happy to answer any factual questions or anything that the board has when it gets to this item.
Great. Thank you for your comments, Adriana. And I know you had appeared and talked before us at a prior meeting. Like I mentioned before, we'll wait till we get to that point. You're happy to have you with us. And I guess that's item 19B. So thanks for joining us today. I'll go to the third speaker.
That would be Mr. Edgar Garcia. He spoke at the December 20th, 2021 special board meeting, and he's speaking today with additional information.
Hello, you there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, how you doing, ladies and gentlemen, board members of the Otay Water District? Thank you for your time. I'm really grateful for you guys giving us the time to give you guys a little bit more background as to what our project over at the Otay Water District land that's gonna be basically under the sale of Colliers, and basically me and my company, we've done an assessment on the land, and we basically would like to see if we can enter some sort of development agreement with the Otay Water District. The development agreement would basically serve as a joint venture with the Otay Water District on letting my company, Green Seed Investments, put a community solar farm. We believe that based on our assessments and our investors, we have looked into basically coming up to the best conclusion for the three parties involved, which would be the community, the Otay Water District, and our joint venture company. Right now, we're working with several investors. One of them, Destin Sefraj, who owns a close to $1 billion investment company. And essentially, he would be giving us the logistics and the guidance on how to make the project over Otay Water District the most feasible way. Based off of his experience, he has determined that a development agreement would basically give the Otay Water District rights to revenue based off our solar project on a percentage, on a set percentage rate. On top of that, it would give you guys rights to any feasibility studies on, and it definitely would be much more of a better opportunity for you guys to keep your asset instead of having longer retention of the land. The sale of the land is basically going to give you guys more liability in the long term, and based off of previous development, based off previous firms that sell properties, they have mentioned that properties of your guys' size of caliber tend to be held on the longer aspect, and we have basically determined that we would rather partner up with you guys through a development agreement under the guise of having a solar farm on there to develop an environmental and communal-based economic engine. Basically, it would help you guys retain your guys' asset of the land, and on top of that, be able to have a passive revenue instead of just having a one-time sale of the land. And at that point, basically, you guys not having access to the majority of the property, even though there's going to be some sort of development proposals on there, such as homes. On top of that, other unsuitable factors that are in that area. So we have basically determined that it would be much more beneficial for you guys to enter a development agreement as opposed to selling the land, because that would give you guys basically shares into this company that would in the long term help Otay Water District develop a new form of revenue that's environmentally based.
All right, thank you, Edward, for joining us today and providing us your comments. We will be discussing this later in our board meeting under closed session item 25B.
Okay, awesome. As I mentioned, I forward all my information to Tita. So if you guys have any questions, my personal information is in there. I definitely would love to sit down with you guys and give you a little bit more of a in-depth, projection of how the project will be working out towards basically the whole three parties involved. But as I mentioned, if we could sit down and have some sort of a pitch meeting where I can give you guys a much better breakdown as to how we have made this be a bit more realistic.
All right, well, thank you. And I can confirm Tita did send that out to the board.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, so we, do we have any more speakers, Tita? I know there was 3, but nothing came in.
No other speakers for today.
All right. Thanks to the speakers today, and we will move to item 5, recognition of board president.
Hi, as General Manager Martinez, I'll go ahead and get started. I think, Tita, did you have a little screen to share? Well, obviously we're doing this virtually. So, we wanted to show everybody the nice gift that I think we'll be presenting the next time President Smith is in the office. But here's a snapshot of it. So hopefully we got the spelling right, we got the name right, and it looks pretty good. So with that,
the time's not right.
Yeah. It was when we took the photo. So with that, I'll turn it over to Vice President Roback to see if he has any words to say.
Well, I guess Tim, we can all see what it says on there. So anyhow, I don't think I need to read that, but obviously it's been another tough year. We've had our challenges in the district, but in terms of meeting at the headquarters, that certainly has not happened, and who knows when that's going to happen in this next year. So, but through it all, Tim, we appreciate your leadership, and anyhow, that's what all I have to say. I mean, you've done a great job under some trying times. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Vice President Roback and General Manager Martinez. I'll be sure to pick that up next time I'm in the office. And yeah, it looks very nice. Thank you. Yeah, the objectives for this year, it's interesting to go back and look at some of the things that I mentioned last year that I wanted to accomplish. One was to get back to normal with COVID, and we had one meeting in person last year, August 2021. I don't think any of us thought that this was gonna last that long. Another objective was to provide support to our customers. I think that was a goal of all of the board, and throughout the process, we were able to accomplish that with, we'll hear today, funding from the state for helping some of the underserved community members who couldn't pay their bills, providing that bill payment. So I think that was successful with the help of everybody. And I think the last one was just efficiencies, looking at ways of continuing to be more and more efficient. And so from what I've seen, that's occurred during this year despite COVID. So thanks again to everyone. I'll move on to the next one. I think I'll turn it over to General Manager Martinez, the election of the board.
All right, well, thank you very much, President Smith. And again, on behalf of staff, it was a pleasure to work with you as president. And so I look forward to continuing to work with all the board members. So I get the honor of performing agenda item number 6, election of the board president. So per our procedure for election of the district's code of ordinances, the general managers shall chair the proceedings for election of president, and shortly after the nomination and vote, the new president will immediately take chair and proceed with the election of the vice president and treasurer. So with that, I would open it up to see if there's any nominations or anything from the board.
Yeah, I'll start off. I know that we've done this in the past and suggesting that we continue with the rotation, but I first want to ask Director Roback his position and whether he feels ready to do this job and has time to do the job. So before I make a nomination, I just wanted to check with you, Director Roback.
Well, I know we talked about this last year. I was, I guess it essentially was my turn then, but it's funny. I've only been the president one time in my 17 years, but I always like to think, whatever I do, whatever situation I'm in, organization or whatever it is, the right fit. So, and I know the one time that I was president, the time that, was involved for me and to do it right. And I just don't think, especially with, this pandemic going on even longer and everything more trying, and I'm not retired, it just really wouldn't be ideal for me, Tim. So, what I'd like to do, kind of thinking this thing through is, I think, if it's not broken, there's no need to fix it. Kind of like when we were, kept our, in some respects, our auditor for longer than expected, because it just made sense, so what I'd like to do, if you're okay with it, Tim, is just have you continue again as the president. So that'd be my motion.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly willing to be president again. Yeah,
If that's a motion, I'll second the motion.
It was a motion, yes.
All right, well, with a motion and a second, Tita, can you please call the vote?
Sure. Director Smith,
yes.
Director Croucher,
Yes.
Director Keys,
Yes.
Director Lopez,
Yes.
and Director Roback.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously for President Smith to continue for another year as
Great.
president.
We're not going to give him another clock, though.
Yeah, different president next year. I'll go ahead and make a motion for Director Roback to be vice president.
Second, Keys.
Do you want to do the roll call, Tita?
Yes. President Smith,
Yes.
Director Croucher,
Yes.
Director Keys,
Yes.
Director Lopez,
Yes.
and Director Roback.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously for Director Roback to continue as vice president.
And I'll make the motion for Director Lopez to continue as treasurer.
And I'll second that.
Tita?
President Smith,
Yes.
Director Croucher,
Yes.
Director Keys,
Yes.
Director Lopez,
Yes.
and Director Roback.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously to have Director Lopez continue as treasurer.
Mhm.
All right. Well, Director Roback, I'm glad I asked you. Thinking we were going through the rotation, but I think it makes sense, and I certainly appreciate your faith in me and the work that I do to lead the board in the right direction. So
Yeah, just don't hang me, vice president.
yeah, and this year I promise to take at least one vacation so that you can fill my role. Director Lopez?
Yes, let me take this lower my hand here. Yes, and I totally approve. I mean, if we're looking for continuity, which I know the old time is on the right track, fully support having you carry on all those duties. I mean, I was there before, and I was voted in twice as chairperson. So, and for the same reasons, the continuity. So I totally agree with Director Rollback's comments, especially during the COVID. I think you've handled it very well, along with general manager and with the support of the board. So congratulations, and I look forward to working with the president and the board as a whole. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Lopez. I see Director Key's hand.
All right, thank you, President Smith. I just really wanted to extend my thanks to you and the other members of the board and to staff for helping bring me up to speed over the year with all the COVID restrictions and what have you. You've been very amicable and been very helpful, and I just really want to offer my thanks for that.
Great, thank you. All right, let's move on to the rest of our agenda. We do have quite a full agenda today. Item, let's see, 9. This is a process. We need to recess the Otay Water District board meeting. So I'm hitting my gavel. We're recessed. I'll move to item 10, convene the Otay Water District Financing Authority board meeting. So I'm calling that meeting to order. And Tita, will you please do the roll call?
Sure. Director Smith,
Here.
Director Croucher,
Here.
Director Keys,
Here.
Director Lopez,
Here.
and Director Roback.
Here.
There is a quorum.
And under item 12, we will reaffirm the officers of the Otay Water District Financing Authority, the president being myself, Director Smith, the vice president being Director Roback. The executive director is General Manager Martinez. The treasurer auditor is Joe Beecham, and the secretary is Tita Ramos Krogman. And so we need to vote on that, I think. We have a motion and a second.
So Joe's going to audit himself? Joe.
I think
Very
that's
comfortable with that.
I'm just kidding.
yeah. Do we need a motion for this legal counsel? I think we vote on it, right? Reaffirming it.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll make the motion for that, what I just mentioned, and I need a second.
Second.
Okay, second from Roback. Tita, please do the roll call.
Okay. President Smith,
Yes.
Director Croucher,
Yes.
Director Keys,
Yes.
Director Lopez,
Yes.
and Director Roback.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. So item 13, we're adjourning the Otay Water District Finance Authority board meeting. So that meeting is now adjourned. Item 14, I am reconvening the Otay Water District board meeting to order. Okay, so item 15, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 3rd, 2021, and special meetings October 19th, 2021, December 1st, 2021, and December 20th, 2021. And before I do a motion in a second, I just want to thank Tita and staff for putting these meeting minutes together so quickly. I know that was a goal of your team, Tita, and so I just wanted to recognize that. So do I have a motion in a second?
Motion to approve. Keys.
Second, Lopez.
All right, Tita, do the roll call.
Director, President Smith,
Yes.
Director Croucher,
Yes.
Director Keys,
Yes.
Director Lopez,
Yes.
Director Roback.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. We've got 3 items on the consent calendar, and I would like to pull item 16C because of Director Key's position. So I see your hand raised, Director Keys. You want to make a comment for item 16C?
President Smith, just to, it's 16A, just to.
Oh, excuse me, 16A. 16A.
Yes, actually, yes, thank you, President. Thank you, General Manager. Yes, one of the contracts, I guess, that will be voted on is for Engineering Partners, and that is actually the company I work for. And so as a matter of, for clarity, it makes sense. I'll be removing myself from this meeting unless, of course, there's any questions that I can answer before I leave.
So before you leave, we will do the other item, 16B, which is award of as-needed engineering services, and 16C, the fine for the meter. Do I have a motion for 16B and C?
A motion to approve the consent calendar with the one item removed.
Thank you.
Second, Lopez.
All right. Tita, can you do the roll call for 16B and C?
President Smith,
Yes.
Director Croucher,
Yes.
Director Keys,
Yes,
Director Lopez,
Yes.
and Director Roback.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So can somebody recuse or remove Director Keys for the process? How we,
I'll go ahead and leave right now, and Tita, just give me a call when we're ready. See you shortly.
Will do, Director Keys.
all right, looks like Director Keys is gone from our Zoom meeting. So item 16A is on the consent calendar for professional service agreement. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Lopez, second.
Tita, can you please do the roll call for 16A?
President Smith,
Yes.
Director Croucher,
Yes.
Director Lopez,
Yes.
Director Roback,
Yes.
and Director Keys has recused himself from this agenda item. Motion passes 4-1.
All right. You want to bring
Just for
in
clarification, it's 401, correct?
4-0?
Okay, thanks.
4-0, sorry.
4-0,
Thank you,
yes.
Director Croucher.
So you want to bring him back in?
Yes, I'll give him a call right now.
And our next agenda item is going to be item 17. And in the action item section, once he comes back in.
He will be with us in a minute. Director Keys,
Yes, I'm here.
there you go. Thank you.
Great, thanks for joining us. So item 17 is authorizing staff to conduct remote teleconferencing meetings. Do I have a motion and a second for this item?
Motion to approve, Keys.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion by Keys, second by Roback. Tita, please do the roll call.
President Smith,
Yes.
Director Croucher,
Yes.
Director Keys,
Yes,
Director Lopez,
Yes.
and Director Roback.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, 17B is discussing the board meeting calendar. Do we have any comments or information regarding that? I think we're started our new year. Seeing no hands raised, we'll move on to our next item, which is item 18A under Finance and Administration, review of the 2021 actuarial value report. And I'll turn it over to staff to do the presentation.
Good afternoon, President Smith, Directors, and General Manager Martinez. I'm Eid Fakori, the Finance Manager here at the district. This item before you is an informational update reviewing the results of the fiscal year 2022 OPEB actuarial valuation. Staff is also recommending approval to redirect the budgeted FY 2022 OPEB contribution from the California Employers Retirement Benefit Trust Fund to the CalPERS Pension Fund as an advanced pension contribution, reducing the district's unfunded pension liability. The actuarial valuation was conducted by Total Compensation, Inc., an actuarial consulting firm, and their actuary, Luis Murillo, who is here today, and will be presenting the details of the results. Excuse me. OPEB is the acronym for Other Post-Employment Benefits and primarily consists of retiree medical coverage. This report contains a lot of data, and before we walk through this study, I want to highlight two key points. The first is that the plan is now 109% funded, and secondly, staff is recommending that the fiscal year 2022 budgeted OPEB contribution be redirected and applied to the CalPERS unfunded pension liability. Every 2 years, the district is required to hire an actuary to perform a study that determines the district's liability for OPEB benefits and to compute the annual actuarial determined employer contribution target, or the employer contribution target called ECT. The valuation presented today was performed as of June 30th, 2021, and covers fiscal years 2022 and 2023. You may recall that the OPEB plan reached 100% funding in 2019. And so more good news is that the current OPEB report indicates a funding level of 109%, achieving 100% funding in 2019. After achieving the 100% funding level in 2019, it has been the practice of the district to make annual contributions to the OPEB fund equal to the actuarial determined target contributions, and then reimburse itself for the retiree medical direct cash payments and implied subsidy for the fiscal year. And there's two key numbers that I'd like to point out. The first is the employer contribution target. In the current report, you will see that fiscal year 2022 employer contribution target is $1,078,527, which is $270,000 more than fiscal year 2021. The increase is due to the most recent updated employee census data, service cost of new employees hired on or after July 1st, 2019, and interest expense. It has been the practice of the district to make annual contributions to the OPEB fund equal to this contribution target. The second number is the total OPEB accrued liability. The total OPEB accrued liability for June 30th, 2021 is $32.5 million. This is a net increase of $2.7 million from June 30th, 2020. The liability increase is primarily due to the additional service years earned by eligible employees between 2019 and 2021, interest on the total OPEB liability, changes related to the employee census data, and higher actual medical premium costs than what was expected. When comparing the trust fund assets held in CERPT to the total liability in the current valuation report, you'll see how we reached 109%. The increased funding level is a result of the district's commitment to contribute the actuarial determined contribution target each year and funding the retiree medical premiums through the budget. So now I want to touch on the reimbursement process. Now that the funding reached 100% in 2019, it is the district's practice to reimburse itself for the retiree medical direct cash payments and the implied subsidy for the fiscal year. In fiscal year 2022, the district submitted and received its second medical retiree benefit reimbursement from the OPEB trust fund for $1,201,000. As directed by the board during the fiscal year 22 budget adoption, staff will make an equivalent additional contribution to CalPERS. Fiscal year 2021 was a banner in the financial markets. In the most recent SERP annual statement, it was reported by CalPERS that the SERP fund earned 28.33%. This resulted in earnings of $7.9 million for the district's trust fund. The expected return was 7%. The current funding status of 109% provides the district an opportunity to utilize the fiscal year 22 budgeted OPEB contribution to further reduce the district's unfunded CalPERS pension liability while maintaining a fully funded OPEB plan. Similar to the board's plan to use reimbursed funds to make an additional CalPERS contribution, reducing the district's unfunded pension liability, staff is proposing that the budgeted fiscal year 22 OPEB contributions of $909,000 be used to make an additional CalPERS contribution, reducing the district's unfunded pension liability. So I know that was a lot of numbers. And I would like to introduce Luis Murillo. He's an actuary with TCS, and he's been practicing with TCS in our previous actuarial firm for over 12 years. So with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Luis and receive his comments.
Well, good afternoon, President Smith, esteemed board members, and members of the public. As Mr. Fakuri said, I'm here to present the results of the June 30th, 2021 actual evaluation performed for the district's retiree health benefits. And so really the purpose of the valuation is to provide the estimated cost for providing this benefit. And so we'll review the things that affect that. And so first is, what are the benefits that are being offered? Go over the valuation results, and then discuss the contribution targets. And so really, again, the purpose is to estimate the cost of the district for providing this retiree health benefits to your employees. And the measurement of the cost can really be broken up between accounting and funding. And so for accounting purposes, the district accounts under GASB 75, which specifies how the retiree health liability should be reflected on your financial statements. We will provide a separate GASB 75 report since we're waiting for the SERP assets, audited assets to be released. And so the report that we recently issued really is a funding report and provides the contribution targets for the next 2 fiscal years. And it's based on the funding practice that the district has had. And so what is that funding practice? And so that funding practice really is to contribute the difference between the retiree payments, so the actual retiree health payments for the year, and then the difference between that contribution target. And so what are the benefits that are being offered? And so really the district offers lifetime medical and dental benefits, and pays 100% of the retiree premium and 8 of the retiree premium and 88% of the spouse dependent premium. In order to receive the benefit, an employee must retire on or after age 55 with at least 20 years of service. Unrepresented employees that were hired prior to 1/1/2013 need at least 15 years of service and must retire on or after age 55. The district participates in the Special District Risk Management Authority for its medical coverage. And the medical plans that are offered are community rated plans. And that means that the active employees and the pre-Medicare retirees pay the same premium. And since employees and your pre-Medicare retirees pay the same premium, the retiree rates are being subsidized. And so the valuation includes an estimate of what that subsidy is. And so the valuation as of June 30th, 2021 includes 132 employees and the 80 retirees. And so the valuation process requires that we collect census and premium rate information from the district. And then we use that information along with actuarial assumptions to estimate the liability. And so in order to estimate the liability, we first try to estimate the expected benefit payments each year for all future years. We then take the present value in today's dollars of all those future benefit payments. Then lastly is we then break up that present value based on past service and future service. And past service is just the amount of years that your employees have worked up until the valuation date. And so on slide 6 here, you can see that the expected benefit payments for the first 10 years, we've broken it up between the expected paid directly to the retirees and then that implicit subsidy. And we're showing you the first 10 years and then representative years thereafter. But again, we're actually estimating every single year. Even you see we go from 2030 to 2050, but it's every year that we're estimating up through 2090 and beyond until the last benefit is paid. And so we add up all those future cash flows and we take the present value of those cash flows. And so the total present value of the entire amount of all those future cash flows is 40.7 million. And so then we break up that 40.7 in what's already been earned and based on service through the valuation date. And so of the 40.7, 32.5 million has already been earned by your employees. And your employees are expected to earn an additional $1 million over the coming year. And then, so here you can see also, after that 2022, 2C there, you see that in future years, an additional 7.2 million is expected to be earned. And then the graph that we're showing there at the bottom, the teal on the left, the fiduciary net position, is the market value of assets. And so as of 6/30/2021, your market value of assets was 35.5 million. Your total OPEB liability was 32.5, which is the dark blue piece there. And so you were overfunded by $3 million, which is, as Mr. Fakuri said, about 109% funded status for the year. And so then in slide 8, we're really showing the changes in the liability between 2020 and 2021. And so TOL stands for total OPEB liability. FNP stands for fiduciary net position. Again, just a fancy term for market value of assets. And then the NOL is the difference between the liability and the assets, but it stands for net OPEB liability. And so really represents the unfunded portion. And so you can see that it's negative because you actually have an asset. You have more assets than a liability. And so on the bottom half of the slide, we're really showing you the 4 main reasons for the decrease in the net OPEB liability. And so we expected your liability to go up about 900,000 for the year, which are the predictable changes. So as of 2021, we expected that liability to be closer to 30.9 million. But then, as Mr. Fakuri said, it was a great asset year with a 28% return. So that was part of those unpredictable changes that lowered the net OPEB liability. Then you made a contribution to the trust, so that further lowered the unfunded liability. And then we made a couple of assumption changes that further lowered the liability even more. And so again, you have an unfunded or an asset of $3 million. And so then, the projected trust transactions. And so here we're showing you really the, the contributions for the next 10 years. And what you want to look at is the second to last column, so that net dollars to trust. And so that really reflects the difference between the trust reimbursements, so the expected benefit payments that you can get reimbursed from the trust, and the recommended or the employer contribution target for the year. And so, Mr. Fakuri mentioned the 1.2 and then the $1,078,000. And so the net to the trust that you can get is about 100,000. And then the following year stays about 100,000. And then by year 2030, you can start getting reimbursed about $1 million. So you can see for the foreseeable future, you don't have to actually make cash contributions to the trust. You can actually get a reimbursement because your benefit payments are starting to be larger than the contribution targets. And so this is the stream if you wanted to hover around 110%. But what if you wanted to bring that down? And so I think one of the things on slide 10 is here we're just showing an alternative scenario. If you wanted to bring that funded status down from 109% to something closer to 100%, pretty quickly. And so you can see that you don't have to make a contribution target. There's no contribution target for the first 3 years. And you're just really getting the full reimbursement. And so by year 3 to 4, you're actually getting the funded status down to 100%. And getting a much larger reimbursement in the meantime. And so again, this is just an alternative scenario to give you a sense of if you wanted to bring that funded status down to 100% quickly and hover around 100% rather than 110%. And again, you can see that the net dollars to trust, are about 1.2 million the first 3 years, and then they come down. And then you start getting closer to that $1 million difference. And so the difference between slide 10 and 9, in slide 9, that was about 100,000. Here you're getting reimbursements about 1.2 million for those first 3 years. And that's it for the presentation. Thank you. If you have any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Luis and Aid, for the presentation. I know this went to the Finance Committee. Do we have any comments from the committee or any questions from board members?
Well, I will say, we reviewed everything. I think it was pretty straightforward, as you just heard in the presentation. Anyhow, the truth seems self-evident, but I'll let anybody that has any questions go for it.
I'm kind of curious who was the brainchild of this? Was this Joe Beecham's brainchild, way back when we were looking at the benefits that eventually we would pay off the OPEB and use it to fund CalPERS?
I would say if it wasn't me, it was Kevin, and I don't remember who.
It was not me. I was not here when that strategy took place.
Nice try, Joe.
But there is one thing I want to do is just circle back because typically this is an informational item, and there is a component of this where we're asking for the board to take an action to direct staff to redirect the contributions that typically would go to the OPEB to direct that contribution to PERS. And kind of in Luis's slide 10, we're really asking where you see these zeros here, we're asking that the board approve us using this strategy to draw this down to 100% and utilize those funds to reduce our PERS liability.
So Kevin, you're saying the recommended action is the alternative scenario?
Yeah, essentially the formal request is that the board approve the redirection of the fiscal year 2022 budgeted OPEB contribution from the SERPed OPEB fund to the CalPERS pension fund. And doing so would that strategy will bring this back down to 100%.
Do we do it every year, Kevin, or does this motion?
This motion would just be for this year. We would make another motion likely as part of the budget process for 2023 as we head into that budget season.
So we would get money now, essentially, instead of later, earning more money on a higher funded status. So we benefited from having 109% because we were lucky with the returns of the market to give us more returns. But what I understood was it's probably more appropriate to maintain the OPEB at 100% or try to set that as a goal rather than trying to overfund it and then, I don't know, get lucky or not get lucky based on the market conditions.
Correct.
Okay. And then I was also curious, have other agencies experienced this overfunding of OPEB? Because I recall the Water Authority and their system where they had pre-funded OPEB, and for some reason they couldn't get the money out. Was there something that we did differently that allows us to get reimbursement that's different than other agencies?
I don't believe so. I believe it's a standard process through CERT. We haven't had any challenges pulling money out, but we can circle over and contact the folks over at CWA to see if they could benefit from our process at all.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Kevin, that maybe there's something that we either did or know about that allows us to do this, because providing funds to CalPERS was one of our primary strategies. And like the presentation mentioned, we've saved, what, $7.9 million by pre-funding CalPERS. And so this just advances that same goal.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any other thoughts by board members, or can I get a motion and a second to approve the recommendation?
I just want to comment that pretty much all the actions are consistent with all the best, what do you call it, management practices that we've done in the past. So it's a good report, and it's a win-win, what do you call it, presentation here. Totally agree, and I would like to make a motion that we approve this.
All right, you have a second? That's Roback, I think. Tita, can you do the roll call vote?
Sure. President Smith,
Yes.
Director Croucher,
Yes.
Director Keys,
Yes.
Director Lopez,
Yes.
and Director Roback.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And great. Thanks for a job well done to all the finance and those involved in the process. The board is very satisfied and pleased with the result. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item. Item 19A, renewal of the Mexican agreement to transfer water and adjust the wheeling rate for delivery of water to Mexico. You have a presentation, staff.
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, President Smith, members of the board, and General Manager Martinez. Before I begin, it's noted that after the presentation of this item at the Engineering Operations Committee, the President of the board requested that the General Manager be given the authority to perform any action necessary to comply with the contract. Therefore, staff has worked with legal counsel and has amended its recommendation as follows. A, that the board authorize the general manager to execute the proposed renewal agreement, attachment B, titled Agreement for Temporary Emergency Delivery of a Portion of the Mexican Treaty Waters of the Colorado River to the international boundary in the vicinity of Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico, and for the operation of facilities in the United States. And that B, the board authorizes the general manager to adjust the annual wheeling rate and perform any action necessary to comply with the agreement for the duration of the agreement. And you can see the part that's underlined here on the attached that's on the screen there. That is the changes to the language from the original staff report. So Mexico has again made a formal request to the United States through the International Boundary and Water Commission to provide an emergency water supply in and around the city of Tijuana. The current agreement expires in January of 2022. The proposed agreement will span for a period of 5 years after it is fully executed. The district's water distribution system is used to convey the emergency delivery of Mexican treaty waters through an interconnection near the international border and receives a wheeling rate to cover the costs associated with it. The wheeling rate for any emergency deliveries in calendar year 2022 will be $89.04 per acre foot and will be adjusted each year for the term of the agreement. The district's requests for amendments to the contract were incorporated into the document and consist primarily of clarifying the terms pertaining to the timing and process for funding the emergency repair reserve for non-routine maintenance of the dedicated interconnection and pipeline. Once the agreement is signed by the district, the San Diego County Water Authority, and the Metropolitan Water District, then the United States and Mexico will finalize and sign a new minute to extend the temporary emergency delivery of Colorado River waters for use in Tijuana, Baja California. Staff is requesting the board authorization for the general manager to execute the proposed renewal agreement and authorize the general manager to adjust the annual wheeling rate and perform any action necessary to comply with the agreement for the duration of the agreement. And with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Jake, for the presentation and making the adjustment. Ultimately, if there are changes, making it easier for the general manager to do that. So do I have any questions or comments? If not, I'll take a motion in a second.
Motion to approve, Keys.
Lopez, second.
All right, Director Keys with the motion, Director Lopez with the second. And I know this is something that has to go to the Water Authority Board and the Metropolitan Board. And I know it's on Metropolitan's agenda for this month. And I think it's on for the Water Authority.
That is correct.
Yeah, so Tita, please do the roll call vote.
President Smith,
Yes.
Director Croucher,
Yes.
Director Keys,
Yes.
Director Lopez,
Yes.
and Director Roback. Director Roback,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
Okay.